You're still mute, Keith.
What the fuck? There we go. What the fuck? All right, way to start off the show. All right, guys. We are live. This is the Shillan and Duffy show, recapping UFC Vegas, whatever, 63, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
Kattar versus Allen, Allen versus Kattar. I'm your host. I was all messed up. The clock, I wasn't paying attention to the countdown clock. That snuck on me. I was still taking notes. Then I couldn't get my mute button off. My mute button was working worse than Calvin Kattar's knee. Not a good night, but joining me as always is the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I mean, we're about to talk about this main event, and there's nothing quite like this to kind of leave a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah. So first of all, I wasn't on the recap show. I was like on my deathbed this week. I was like bedridden from honestly right after the pay-per-view on Saturday till probably about Wednesday is when I started feeling somewhat better. So you did the preview show solo for this. What was your overall grade? What was your overall record?
If we throw in the two that I didn't actually preview because they weren't absolutely confirmed, like I only did the last 9. If we include all of that, I went 6 and 5.
Okay.
Now, having said that, we're going to talk about some of kind of the weird decisions and weird freaky outcomes. There were 2 fights tonight that I just flat out got wrong and learned a lot from, but we'll get to those when we get to them.
Yeah, you had a really mediocre on your picks. I was perfect. I was 11-0, just so you know. I mean, for my notes that I was going to put out there, I got everything right, even screw jobs, and it's 11-0. Just take my word for it. Not the best card on paper. I think it's probably one of our shorter shows. Only 11 fights. I think they only had 2 fighters even ranked in the Sherdog rankings. The 2 guys in the main event. The main event, obviously, not what we were hoping. As Arnold Allen won a second-round TKO over Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar's knee blown out right at the end of the first round. Tries muscling up, coming out for the second round. Blows out the first contact. His knee, he goes a step back. His knee or his calf or maybe an Achilles. I'm not exactly sure. A lower body of his right leg fell out.
Right leg.
Not good. I feel like we've been kind of on a stretch like this. We had the Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw. We had the Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega is another one. We had Curtis Blades, Tom Aspinall.
Mm-hmm. Just tonight we had Phil Hawes and Roman Dolidze. And granted, that's not a title fight or a title eliminator, but it was probably the second highest ranked fight on this card.
Yeah, I know. You're right. So we've been having this a lot, and every single time something like this happens, I feel like there's no winner. While Allen looked fantastic this could have been his night. This could have been his night. His first main event, going across, the pond over to America, fighting Calvin Kattar, the guy that he called out, the higher ranked guy, winning his 10th fight in a row, looking better. He looked sharp. He was beating Calvin Kattar in Calvin Kattar's game in the striking, and we get the freak injury. Kattar jumped and landed the wrong way. And I know somebody in the chat already said that was because of Arnold Allen's footwork, which is to his credit. Yeah, little truth to that. Like, he didn't move out of the way. Just terrible. Like, it was the worst ending possible. Really, I really felt bad for Arnold Allen. Obviously, I feel bad for Calvin Kattar too, because put in the kind of work. You can only analyze 5 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever it was. Tell me your thoughts on the main event.
I was impressed at how good Allen's boxing looked, because Allen is a good MMA boxer and Calvin Kattar's a great MMA boxer. So I figured they would be competitive on the feet, but Kattar would probably get the better of it. What I was most interested to see is the stuff we didn't get to see. I wanted to see Allen's wrestling against Kattar's defensive wrestling. That's what on the preview I said, I think it's going to hinge on that. whether he's going to be able to get takedowns or whether at least the threat of the takedowns will bring a little bit more parity to the boxing. And because Kattar is such a proven product in 5-round fights at this point, if Allen would fade late, especially if he did try to wrestle, like if he got takedowns easy in the early rounds but got tired first and couldn't get him late, that would be one dynamic. If he didn't get them early and all of a sudden was able to get them late, that would be something else we learned. We didn't get to see any of that. All I know is Allen won the first round even before the blowout happened. I thought he was getting a little better of it. And that's almost the worst possible outcome, because if Kattar was winning easily when his knee got hurt, then that's real easy. Okay, we run that back in 6 months. But here it's like, especially considering that this division is about to be without a champ for a half a year, it leaves us without a clear step forward.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is so he looked really fast. Kattar, he looked fast. His feints were on point. His straight left, I think they said they were like counting, it was like 3-4 in a row that he landed. Not a lot of tells. He was always a good striker. He's starting to become one of the really goods. And it comes down to me to confidence. You see a guy that he's just oozing with confidence. His footwork was on point. He had this like modified Philly shell thing to go in, which was confusing Kattar. But one thing I'll remind people, one about the wrestling, Kattar's historically really tough to take down. Like he's a good defense. He's not known for his grappling, but he's a good defensive. He's a sprawl and brawl kind of guy. You're an anti-wrestler. But the other thing is, Kattar's also a slow starter. That's always his game. He has that Anderson Silva mentality where he's trying to read you, trying to pick up tells, going to come forward later. I'm going to give I don't want to be like, oh, Allen was going to win because, I think Kattar's team, I think Tyson Chartier is really good at adjusting this and that. One thing I'll say about Allen, he reminds me so much, and I mean, this is such an easy comparison. It's it's kind of a cheap comparison, but he reminds me a lot of his fellow countryman, Leon Edwards, a guy that really was known for his striking, worked on his wrestling so much, became such a good wrestler. We kind of forgot about his striking. Then his striking kind of caught back up to his wrestling, and I kind of feel like that's what's going on with Allen. Like he was known for his grappling for a long time. Then he started showing some hands, and then he started wrestling, in another fight. And now he's starting to show his hands look tremendous tonight. And he's just improving so much in this 10-fight winning streak, but also that personality too. It's like they're like dying for you to make a call out. The division's wide open. They're trying to even lead you into a interim title shot. Call your shot, dude. There's 3 guys. It's Yair Rodriguez, Josh Emmett, and Arnold Allen. Call the guy of the 2. Make yourself that you're not the one being left out.
It's weird because I hesitate to traffic in stereotypes. Actually, I don't. I embrace stereotypes. Most of your star British fighters are pretty willing to jaw. I mean, just think of your, Dan Hardy's, Michael Bisping's. Like typically your Brits can talk up their own fights, to say nothing of your Irishmen. But Allen, he is it's like he is oatmeal on the mic. He's just like watching paint dry. Like, dude, you didn't have to do anything but just have a man's name in your mouth and say it with a little bit of attitude.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to say don't be who you are. Like, don't fake it. Don't. For a long time, people were trying to do push Demetrius Johnson into be a trash talk. This is not him, but you can have that competitiveness in you. Yeah. Even if he said, I respect everybody in the division, but I really want to, Josh Emmett keeps saying no one wants to fight him. Hey, I'm right here, buddy. I'll fight you. Or, hey, I'll fight Yair Rodriguez in Mexico City. Or I'll fight Yair, let's come back to England. Or he's got connections to Canada. Canada hasn't had a card in a really long time. Something like that. I felt like his in-cage fighting was tremendous tonight.
Yep.
Maybe he says something in the post-fight interview. I'm hoping he does. But technically, he was on point. He was pulling another thing with the footwork. He was pulling Calvin Kattar into that left, which was nice. He was timing Kattar's rhythm and everything. Just really, really, really tremendous. Kattar, we talked about it. I'm really worried about Kattar moving forward. Now he's 34 years old. He's had some wars. Who knows what kind of injury? I'm hoping this is something where it's maybe temporary, maybe it's a partial tear or something where, hopefully it's not something where it's, out there for a really long time. But he's turning 35. I think I looked in March. If it's a torn ACL or something like that, a torn Achilles, we're looking, he's probably not returning until he's 36 in that division, featherweight, coming off a couple losses. This might be the last time we've seen Calvin Kattar. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, but this might be the last time we see Calvin Kattar in a high, stakes fight.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. And the thing is, Kattar lost to Emmett ahead of this. And it was a really close fight. Quite a few people scored it for Kattar. And I liked what the UFC did because they basically booked him almost the same as they would have if he'd beaten Emmett. Arnold Allen was probably going to be the next fight before a title shot for him anyway. And, Emmett couldn't take it because I think he was injured immediately after. But, yeah, I mean, I like this. This was his chance to probably punch his ticket to a title shot. And depending on what happened with that knee, yeah, this might have been his last great hurrah as a top 5 fighter or someone directly in the title picture. That would be a shame because he is he's such a good fighter, such an enormously fun one to watch. Just, always fun to see. I mean, he's not like a one-dimensional fighter, but like a true specialist. He's a great boxer, and he's got other stuff that makes that work.
So
he has good enough wrestling and good enough grappling so that he can box you.
Yeah, I follow Calvin Kattar forever. I mean, he's from my area.
Yeah. I mean, think of how hard it is to get Keith to say nice things about a fighter from Boston.
I know. Well, I might change that later, but Kattar's guy I follow forever. I'll say this: I was wrong about it. When he was coming up through the regions, and again, a really weird story where he was off for 5 years or something. Then he kind of returned, and when he was first signed to the UFC, I was like, wow, that's great. Like a local guy gets signed, but this is not going to be successful. I viewed him as a low-level UFC talent as best. For him to go on a run, win some wins. I mean, I remember being in Boston when he knocked out Shane Burgos with that huge uppercut. That was one of the most memorable moments I'll remember. I just remember Bear just going everywhere. It was truly the entire arena, obviously in Boston, cheering for him. That was a cool moment for him to be headlining main events in the UFC. I'm really glad that I was wrong about him.
Sure.
I'm hoping I'm wrong about it again, but I'm really confident that I'm not, Yeah. It's sad that I think it's again, hopefully it's something hopefully it's minor. It didn't look minor. I want to, before we move on, I want to get into the whole interim. I want to really kind of dig into that again, as I feel we have 3 guys kind of, and a lot of people are talking about Taporia and Bryce Mitchell could get in that mix too. We'll get to that in a second. I want to start with the doctor or something. The doctor gets brought into the cage with Calvin Kattar. I think it was what's his name? The guy from MMA Junkie. Vernon Wells' brother.
Matt Wells.
Matt Wells, yeah.
Matt Wells, yeah.
He tweeted out, and I want to paraphrase, I don't have it in front of me, but he said something like, if you ask the fighters if they're fine, they're always going to say fine.
Sure.
Isn't the doctor's job to kind of check?
Yeah.
Make him sit on the stool and check his knee. And if it doesn't react the way it should, your job is to stop the fight.
Absolutely. It is. I mean, there's a list of people who share some responsibility, but the fighter themselves is absolutely the last one there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're asking him an opinion-based thing like, do you feel okay to fight? The answer will always be yes. At the very least, it should be a factual yes or no question that you already pretty much know the answer to, like, can you see?
Yeah. And I wasn't planning on talking about this, and I saw Matthew's tweet, and I was like, that's a really good point. And so shout out to Matthew for that. So I'm going to jump on that. Yeah. And what's the point of having him there? Just to check cuts? Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's a shame, and that's twice. I mean, we're going to talk about 2 fights tonight that ended And at least the proximate cause, the second cause, was a knee injury. And in both cases, the fight did not need to go back out there.
Well, the Hawes one was in the middle of the round.
Right. But, like, dude, where's the towel?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Like, dude, when he stumbles back, knee buckling under him and just, like, leans against the fence, it practically looked like he was asking out of the fight right then.
Yeah. So in fairness, Kattar did get up and he looked good. Like he moved well when he got up.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've seen football players be out for the season.
Sure.
And run off the sideline. I remember Jordy Nelson of the Packers in a preseason game tear his ACL, got up and he jogged off the field because everyone was like, oh, Jordy Nelson at that time was like a top 5 fantasy football player. Yeah. Like, oh my God, Jordy Nelson's out for the season. And then they were like, oh no, he ran off the sidelines, very minor. And then like Adam Schefter 2 hours later, breaking news, he's done for the season.
Yep. So
that adrenaline moment, like they can hide it with adrenaline. Yeah, people will point out the Josh Emmett's fighting without an ACL and your Connors. Yeah, those are great. But that's also failures on the doctor's part.
Yep.
Like, I don't know.
Like, yeah. I'm with you. Like, if the doctor doesn't have the authority or doesn't feel they have the authority to stop a fight where a fighter is compromised to the point where they run the risk of being permanently maimed. You know, like, not to get too far off topic, but like, you know, Aaron Pico getting run back out there when he can't, like, he literally can't lift his arm above his shoulder. Like,
terrible. Yeah. And as far as the cornerman, I felt like we talked about this enough last week with TJ Dill's show, but it's the same thing. Like I've given up on the corners. I'm just not gonna say anymore. This is not gonna happen. They're not gonna throw in the towel, and it's a shame. Like, I've cornered people. I mean, a long time ago, but like I would have thrown the towel. Like it just, I don't know. Yes, I understand. I was cornering guys on regional scenes, not huge,
lower stakes stuff. But
yeah, I get that this could cost $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. Like I get that. So yeah, I understand there's a lot easier to throw it in when the guys getting paid, I don't know, $1,000. But yeah, just. We need to change things. We need to change things. I mean, it is what it is. We're not gonna go too far in that because we have other fights to talk about. Alex Volkanovski's leaving the division. They kind of keep mixed together. But I was gonna say two scenarios. Whether he wins the UFC title. Say it happens. The light heavyweight title. I'm obviously talking about. Say he vacates. We have a. UFC featherweight championship matchup, or if he doesn't win or he doesn't vacate and we have some kind of interim championship or even it's just a number one contender matchup, like whatever you want to be.
At the very least, I think we're getting an interim title fight here, and all an interim title fight is in today's UFC is pretty much a number one contender match.
Well, they asked Dana about it last week at the press conference when they asked him about after the post fight, asked about Volkanovski fight and would there be an interim at featherweight. He said no, but. And take that for what it's worth. When they need a co-main event on a pay-per-view, that changes. We kind of have 3 contenders. We have, and I'm going to set this up a little bit. You have Josh Emmett, who's, I'll give you the positive and the negative. The positive is he's been really active. He's won a lot of fights. He's the only one who won. Of the 3, and of the 3 I'm talking about is Josh Emmett, Yair Rodriguez, and Arnold Allen who fought tonight. And maybe there's somebody else if somebody wants somebody else that they think. But and I'll throw this out to the chat. Tell me of those 3, who you would put in if you're running the UFC, who you would put in. And I'm gonna set this up for Ben and let Ben tell me who he would do. To me, the argument for Emmett is he's the only guy who didn't win his last fight by injury.
Right. So you've got 2 people who got there by injury and one who got there by iffy decision. Yeah. Nobody's exactly like, pulling ahead of the pack here.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that's the argument for. I'm going to give the for and negative. The negative argument for Josh Emmett, and this is from the promoter side, is he's probably the least marketable of the 3. He's the oldest. Dude. He's from America, which is, you're not dying to get a champion from America. He doesn't have a huge person. He doesn't really have any personality. He's just a true like.
Oh, I mean, the Emmett versus Allen press conference is making me slide out of my chair right now and pass out on the floor.
Either that, or it would be like them talking trash when neither guy like is good at it, trying.
Yeah.
Okay. Yair Rodriguez. The strongest argument for him is Mexico. He's Mexican. He's like a good-looking guy. He's the most fun type fighter. He's flashy. He's doing flying things. He's definitely the most marketable guy of the three. The negative about that is, one, he also won by an injury, but two, he's been very inactive in his. And shout out to my boy Damon Martin, who when we were talking about this, he said he's 3-2-1 over his last 6 fights, and that was like something like over like 6 years. Like he's so inactive. So that's
like in terms of actual legitimate accomplishment, he is the least deserving of the three. Like if you put him in this fight at all, it's for all the other reasons.
Yeah. The third one is Arnold Allen. Now, the strongest argument is dude's on a 10-fight winning streak.
12 overall, 10 in the UFC.
12 overall. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
12 overall, 10 in the UFC. He hasn't lost in the UFC. So thank you for correcting me on that. Like he's on an incredible run right now. The one argument, he's not that remarkable, but the other argument is, of the three, he's the lowest ranked right now. And I don't think a win over Calvin Kattar is going to have him jump over those guys. I could be wrong. I mean, so there you go. There's your 3 people. You have to make the phone call, Ben, to tell one of them, hey, you're not getting the shot. Who you calling?
You know me. I'm calling Allen and Emmett as the 2 most deserving guys, the 2 guys that are most likely to actually make it to the cage. Yeah, and that's a bummer because, as Mel says, and I think Mel might be new, welcome aboard, Yair is a cutie and his striking is so beautiful. I agree. I'm not a great connoisseur of cutie dudes, but I am a connoisseur of beautiful striking, and I concur on both counts here. Like, all the reasons are there. And if you had a booked date in Mexico where you're like, we got to fill this, you stick him in there, deserve or not.
Yeah.
I mean, this wouldn't even break the top 100 most undeserved title shots in UFC history. Hell, it wouldn't break the top 10 most undeserved, like, Randy Couture title shots. Like, you know.
If you go straight on merit, Yair might be the one who's out.
Yeah, but I could understand why they would do it.
You could also argue that of the last guys they fought, he beat the highest ranked guy of the, with Emmett and Arnold beating Kattar, him beating Brian Ortega. Not that, like, obviously all 3 of those wins are good wins, but
I mean, if we weren't in a situation right now where we're going to need someone now, I mean, Rodriguez isn't especially more deserving on paper than that next tier of guys like Movsar Evloev and Ilya Topuria.
Yeah.
Like, they've done more than him in the last 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I feel like Emmett has to be in.
Now, yeah, I mean...
To me, one guy that has to be in is Emmett. Deb threw out Yair and Arnold Allen. Most marketable fight. I bet that's how most people thought I would go, because I'm usually trying to do the most marketable fight. To me, though, Emmett, it's also what we talked about a couple weeks ago with the females, is he is the oldest. You have to, like, just give him his chance. Plus I'm so biased to American wrestlers. So even though Josh Emmett wrestles about as much as I do nowadays.
Yeah.
So he's in. Now I've really flip-flopped between Arnold and Rodriguez. I really want to see the Arnold fight more, because Arnold looks like a wrecker right now.
Yeah.
He'd probably be the favorite, if we have like a round robin type thing, he's probably the favorite.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a week out, this headliner was a pick'em, and on paper at least, yeah. No, I think Allen probably goes into a fight with either of these guys as a slight favorite, like not a huge one, but he's out there like -140 and the other guy's +110 or something.
Okay. How about Emmett versus Rodriguez? Who's the favorite of that one?
I think Emmett.
I don't know. I don't know. If Emmett wrestled more, I would feel that way.
It makes you wonder if he can. He's
I don't
had
think he
he's
can.
had
I've
serious
said this.
knee injuries.
Yeah. Can finish your point.
Well, just no. He's had those knee injuries. He's 37 or 38. I mean, even if your knees are perfectly healthy, when you are an American wrestler who shoots from the outside like him, you lose something off the fastball. You know, when you are the Damian Maia type takedown artist, you can do that shit until you're 50 because it doesn't require any speed. It requires you to be sneaky and persistent. But when it runs off of fast twitch athleticism, which his always did,
your classic
it's
wrestler, NCAA wrestler style. Yeah.
yeah.
I've got it. We've done a lot of Josh Emmett fights. I've gone run on and say that he's not a wrestler anymore. I do agree. Like, sure, maybe he could wrestle in spurts, but yeah, obviously that's just a feeling. But yeah, I think based on his age, I think he would gas himself out. And the injuries, I don't think it's there. Plus, it sucks. Like, people don't realize how hard wrestling is to drill it and be good at that level. Like, people throw out this, so won this wrestling thing so many years ago. Like, yeah, they were that good 20 years ago, but we don't do that in other ones. We don't say, Josh Barnett was UFC heavyweight champion 20 years. No, like we don't hold him to that level anymore. We understand that there's the decline. It's the same thing with wrestling. Like, yeah, you might have been the NCAA champion. I know Josh Emmett wasn't, but you might have been the NCAA champion in 2002, but you're not that anymore. When people toss out Sarah McMahon, silver medal. Yeah, yes. Women's MMA wrestling definitely a little different, so that's not the perfect example, but you get my point. Like, anyways, I never give my answer. I'm giving it to Yair just because I was thinking about that matchup before this fight, so
It's a better fight. Yair against either of those other two guys is a more fun fight than Allen versus Emmett.
Yes, I agree. So we'll play devil's advocate. I know I didn't tell you to do this, but is that the fight you're doing next? Are you automatically doing like a number one contender? I'm assuming that you're doing that, like a interim or a number one contender.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm calling it an interim title fight immediately if Volkanovski really is locked in as the next challenger. For Islam Makhachev.
Yeah,
I think he'll be back pretty quickly.
Yeah, until the UFC watches our last week's recap show and they get Habib out of retirement and we set up the grudge match between Islam and Habib. But obviously that was a joke. I was shout out to last week's really, really fun recap we did last week. So let's do this. If you're doing the interim, what are you doing with the other guy? Like, you're leaving a guy out. What are you doing with him? So you're leaving Yair out. I'll go first because I know you weren't like I kind of
okay.
I didn't tell you to be prepared for this. Yeah, I thought about the Bryce Mitchell winner, him and Topuria. That'd be really fun. I'm doing Max Holloway. Like, if he's still going to fight in that division, give me Arnold Allen versus Max Holloway.
Beautiful. I like that because I was going to say the odd man out gets one of the up and comers, like gets Topuria, gets Evloev, something like that. But yeah, Holloway is sitting around. He's hungry, and as long as Volkanovski is around, he's got no chance. But if Holloway beats Arnold Allen, and we know that Volkanovski is going to be gone for a year or something, like say he beats Islam Makhachev, or they get a draw or a weird no contest or something, which given our luck is probably what we're going to get. All of a sudden, Holloway has a chance for another title reign.
Mel's asking, why would Yair be the underdog?
I
don't know if he would be. I don't know. I think he would be the way Arnold is fighting right now.
Yeah.
I would say this. It wouldn't surprise me if any of those guys beat each other.
No.
I don't know if Yair would be the underdog against Josh Emmett.
He might not be against Emmett just because Emmett has more question marks around him. Like, he's been active in the last 2 years, but before that, he was the guy with the long injury layoffs. And Like, so I don't know if Yair would necessarily be the underdog against Emmett, but I think he definitely would against Allen. And to me, it basically comes down to, for Yair to win against Allen, he will need to do him a ton of damage in bursts.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if he doesn't do a bunch of damage in bursts, I think Allen just wins every round, just progressively as they go.
Yeah. Yair is so fast. He's so fun, but he's not as technical as Arnold Allen is. And then Arnold Allen, of the three we talk about wrestlers, Arnold Allen is the wrestler of the three.
Yep.
Which has been an issue for Yair in the past. Really long time ago. So, but he's been so inactive, we don't really know if that has been fixed. He was taken down a little bit by Jeremy Stevens. I mean, it was, again, I don't know, about 3 years ago or so. Okay. Anything else you want to say about this? I feel like in some way, like I'm with Volkanovski moving on, or I didn't expect to be saying this, but I'm almost more excited about the division right now. And suddenly all those like, wow, Volkanovski clean up the division. I'm like, wait a minute. There's a lot of guys.
There's a lot of guys. Like, the main problem is that he had already beaten Holloway and Ortega. Like, that's why it felt like he'd beaten everybody. One more for Mel, just because I like this back and forth. Kicks definitely bother Allen, but takedowns and losing. Yeah, kicks bother everybody.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's what I meant. Yair Rodriguez's kicks bother everybody.
Yeah, but like, he blasts Allen with like one really good kick, gets taken down, and spends the next 3.5 minutes eating elbows or fighting to protect his neck. It's going to discourage him.
And he fights at such a high output that to match him with those kicks would be tough. Now, again, maybe he high kicks him and knocks him out. Yeah, like that's absolutely a possibility. I love watching Yair Rodriguez fight. I mean, I told you about when I saw him in Boston at the open workouts, and I swear him kicking the pads was harder than Dominic Reyes kicking the pads. Which was shocking to me.
He's terrifying.
Yeah, he's absolutely he's terrifying. Yeah, and there's another guy that we also forgot about, the most marketable guy in the 145-pound division. Quadruple C, Henry Cejudo. All right. Moving on, co-main event, we had two grizzled veterans battling out, Tim Means and Max Griffin, in a pretty good fight. Max Griffin winning a split decision. I'm going to pause on the split decision part. Just talk about, what do you think about the action that we saw?
This was the only upset I picked on the card. Like, I was pretty straight chalk on this one. I just didn't see a lot of value in many of the underdogs. I did pick the underdog here, and I knew I was wrong when Griffin dropped Means within like the first 60 seconds. Not just because Means was hurt. I mean, obviously that's not great, but because Griffin looked so confident. And for a guy who so obviously runs on confidence, in Griffin, a guy that, he's been gun shy in the past. He's kind of wilted in the past. Yeah. He seems like he has a gas tank problem, but we've both speculated that he might have more of a front runner problem, that he just doesn't like it when somebody puts it on him. For him to be looking so confident, I was like, oh man, I got this one wrong. I expected there to be a speed differential, but the speed differential was even more than I expected. And that was it. I mean, the first 2 rounds, I were competitive, except for a couple moments of big single shot power by Griffin. Like, basically, you could cut out 5 or 10 seconds out of each of the first 2 rounds. That made the whole difference. Otherwise, the round was just a dead stalemate. Yeah. But when Griffin is firing enough that he can catch Means a few times around, that's all he needs to do to win a fight. It was probably the best performance of Max Griffin's UFC run.
Yeah, especially I think it was as good as it could be against a guy like Tim Means, because Tim Means is always he's always going to make it tough. As Max Griffin said in the post, he said that, wow, that guy's really tough. Like, as so many guys say, like, I think it's really true when you say about Tim Means.
I'll say one thing, that I'll throw one more thing in. I also knew that I got this pick really wrong when Means' usual safe spots were not safe for him. Like, the clinch is his favorite place to be, and he wasn't really able to bully Griffin in the clinch. No. And he's not a great wrestler. You don't think of Means when you think of great welterweight wrestlers, because that division's full of great wrestlers. But he's always had it as kind of a safety valve to change things up when he doesn't like what he's getting on the feet. He'll have like a little quick reactive level change, or, he'll go in for what looks like a clinch and he'll just do a quick trip. Very Donald Cerrone-like. And he couldn't do that to Griffin either. So he didn't really have any safe places to go, and
Mm.
Griffin was aggressive enough, at least until like really late in the fight, that yeah, just good performance by Griffin, kind of a disappointing one by Means.
Yeah, I think Mings made an adjustment heading in the second round where he really started forcing Griffin back on his back foot. At first, he wasn't. He was trying to counter Griffin, and Griffin was a little too fast for him. And then he said, "Oh yeah, I'm Tim Means. What I do is I march forward, I put the pressure on guys, and they hold." And
Yep.
he was making his way to doing that. The only issue I think with Tim Means, and again, this is probably like a cop out analysis, but his chin is failing him. Where
Yes.
maybe 5 years ago he would have won this fight, or 3 years ago, because really the second round, as you mentioned, was one short right hand caught him and dropped him because Mings was backing him up. He was beating him with the output, really making Griffin uncomfortable on his back foot. And about, I don't know, 45 seconds left, maybe he gets caught with a shot, dropped. But there wasn't enough where he wasn't like way ahead where it mattered. He was like just kind of winning, outworking him a little bit. And then one shot dropped it. The second round, he was too fast. But third round, actually, I don't know who put it out there, but I think it might have been Mel, said that they thought Tim Means won the third round. I agree. Like, I don't think Griffin did enough on the top, and I think Means kind of put it up, had the volume and everything. But I'll say this because I want to come up. Unless you want to keep talking about the fight itself, I want to get to the.
No, I was just going to pop out and say that 100% of the media on MMA Decisions scored it for Griffin, but like it was like 12 people that made it 29-28 and only 2 that gave it 30-27 for Griffin.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's actually a perfect point. I was going to say it was closer to a 30-27 for Griffin than it is a 29-28 for Means. I don't know how you get any of the that was a terrible scorecard.
Terrible.
The second are you saying like he did enough before? Are you going like, hey, he won 4 minutes in the round? Is that what
and that was Eric Colon, who is he's kind of a frequent flyer as one that turns in baffling scorecards.
I mean, damage is supposed to be the number one criteria. He was dropped. Again, he wasn't. It wasn't. Francis. Francis Ngannou. His head's. Alistair Overeem, his head snapping. It wasn't that, but I mean, it was clearly the most significant moment of the round.
Yep.
It wasn't like Means was up 200 strikes to 10 at that point. I don't know. And then the first round, he was dropped again, and he looked like he was hurt. I mean, the first round he was hurt when he was dropped.
Yeah.
So, really, really bad shot. One thing before we move on, I want to talk about Max Griffin's an underrated grappler. He really is.
Yeah.
To out grapple a guy like Tim Means. Even at portions, and when Tim Means really struggled to get off the bottom, that shows a lot. Before that, Jared Vandera took on Waldo Cortez Acosta. Cortez Acosta won a unanimous decision. This is the only thing I'll say because I really don't want to talk about this fight. One guy was boxing, one guy was kicking, and I really feel like the fight was there for Vandera to win. He just didn't match the output of Acosta. Like he had the avenue, just keep kicking those legs, turn the hips over a little bit more, or start clinching. Get to the clinch, wearing them inside. The guy, Acosta's a boxer. Get out of the boxing range with a guy who has professional boxing experience. Turn it into an MMA fight, and I just don't think he should. I think he should have wrestled a little more. I think he should have threw more calf kicks. He didn't do any, and I'm glad he lost because of it.
I'm totally with you there. I mean, just it reminded me of something from like Fight Circus from Full Metal Dojo, where like, okay, one guy's only going to throw a jab, and the other guy's only going to throw right leg kicks. Let's see who wins.
It's kind of what you like. It's kind of like what you think the early UFCs would have been.
Yeah,
like the boxer was only like throwing punches, and then
it's like playing like Tekken with my brothers. Like when all we had was like 2 broken controllers, so one of us only had like the 2. Yeah. Oh
yeah. It's like when me and my son play Super Smash Bros, which he lost the game, so I think he let his friend borrow and he doesn't know who has it. But
just real quick shout out to Big Marcel 24. That's Marcel Dorf, the smartest MMA guy in the Netherlands. He joins us often. I don't know why he stayed up so late for this card. He's probably regretting it, but give him a follow on Twitter.
He's Big Marcel. He's Big Marcel.
He's the boss, man.
The reason why he's up right now is he can't go to sleep without seeing Anderson Silva.
Oh, that's true. Do you have any hopes for Cortez Acosta's upside? I have a little bit.
Yeah, I do. One thing, he looked better physically than his last fight. He looked like he lost some weight.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people named Colon, he looks less like Bartolo Colon now. Now that he's not playing baseball anymore. Any heavyweight that throws a nice straight snappy jab gets my attention.
Yeah.
Because so few heavyweights have a decent jab that the ones who use it, like, it usually gets their opponent's attention. And in a division where almost everybody has knockout power, the ability to keep your opponent off balance and keep him from just wading in and throwing haymakers at you, it always makes me a little higher on him. But he's got to do something about checking those leg kicks.
like a Dev is bashing me about losing. No, he really didn't lose weight. He looked better. He looked like he had more muscle than, I don't know if Dev was being sorry. Not like Dev, he was like, I'm not saying he was like ripped. I'm not saying he was like, looked like,
Surreal Gone, like, gonna come steal your girl. No,
but like he was really fat on the Contender Series. Now he's
yeah, and that's treachery on the Contender Series, because the Contender Series, they get those one size fits most trunks that are always falling off the asses of the heavyweights. Yeah. Like, I remember, I think the reason that Josh Parisian is still in the UFC is because they don't want him to go back to the Contender Series, because he kept throwing those spinning back fists and his pants kept falling off. So yeah, so
what he should do is, like, he gets a win bonus, like, use the entire win bonus to go over to Thailand and start working on checking leg kicks.
Yeah,
because his next opponent, I can't imagine his next opponent is not just going to kick the shit off his legs.
Yeah, dude, send him up to Trevor Whitman and just have him work with Pat Barry all day, and he will either quit the sport or learn to check leg kicks.
Yeah,
I mean, he's too old. He's too old for Pat Barry, like, that way. So, like, it'll just be a training relationship.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's gonna get really into underage girls. All right. Anyways, before that, Trayshawn Gore versus Josh Frem. Trayshawn Gore ripped off Josh Frem's head in one of the most savage. I would say it was a guillotine that turned into like a bulldog choke that turned into, I don't know, like backyard yoking him up choke. I don't know. That was just. I was gonna say this. I was taking notes, and I was gonna say this. I was gonna call Trayshawn Gore a front runner. And what I mean by that is he came out looking great, and then kind of like, oh, Frem isn't done. Frem is still going to come at me. Oh, he's starting to pressure me. Oh, I'm going to start to get shut down and just get outstruck from range, and then I'm going to take it down, and I'm losing every era. And I'm like, oh man, he's like mentally breaking right in front of us, until suddenly, Frem goes for a single. Trayshawn Gore jumps on a guillotine. But you know what? I shouldn't say he didn't jump on a guillotine. You know what it looked like? It looked like Frem grabbed a single, and he was in wrestling practice when, like, the coach is trying to show a move, and he, like, picks up the single and he's talking. He's like, and then I do this with the head, and he's like, that's what it looked like. Like, are you gonna finish that single, dude? He just he just held it up. Like, he didn't, like, run the pipe, treetop it, change it to a double, like, do something. Don't just hold this leg. And then Gore's like, oh, it wasn't even fast. Like, let me slowly put my arm. Oh, now I have a guillotine.
Yeah, here's the thing. I hate to detract from Gore's win, because I'm going to look in a minute. I'm sure he picked up a bonus for this. Probably saved himself from the cut list, from our cut list. But by the end of the first round, this fight looked exactly like I thought it was going to look. Gore was if not breaking, he was at least running out of ideas. Frem, got off to a slow start, but was really getting into the groove.
Yeah.
And then in the second round, Frem made such a gigantic blunder that Gore almost had to finish him. And the actual finish, like, not only did he, like, hang out forever with that single leg, but then who does that to defend the guillotine? It reminds me of when I was, again, playing with my brothers when I was a little kid, and get him like that. And, we're all pro wrestling fans, like, okay, now do the diamond cutter on me. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it looked like Ben Askren messing with CM Punk at Rufus Sport, like those tapes that came out.
Yeah. Yeah, and Frem, I don't know. That was just not a good show. But I'll say this: Trayshawn Gore has some good personality. Like, I like when he was like starting to like talk himself up, and he's like, "Dude, what am I doing? Am I turning out like I'm good? I got a lot of improvement. I don't know." So good to him. Okay. let's get to Kirill Roundtree versus Justin Jacoby. I'm assuming it's going to be the fight of the night. As Kirill Roundtree won a split decision. I'll say this. Justin Jacoby has a hell of a chin. I'll say that because he ate some big shots from a guy who's known for his crushing power in Kirill Roundtree. Never seen affected, just kept moving forward. Touching, freezing Kirill with feints at times, cutting angles, really just being really calm. Just I was writing this down and I was gonna write like he's not gonna get a bonus for this, but this was one of the most impressive performances of the night to me. To just never got panicked anytime Roundtree hit him. I am shocked by this decision. I left the room because I was doing stuff. My kid was playing with my wife. I walked out of the room just kind of like trying to be a good dad and like shoot a basketball with them real quick. Like, they were playing inside with like little like laundry basketball hoop thing. And, I come back in and they're talking to Kirill Roundtree. And I'm like, what? And I said, then I thought, oh, no. Then I said, oh, is Roundtree retiring? That's what I was thinking. So that's what I thought. I was like, oh, he's retiring. And then I went to Twitter. I'm like, he won a split decision? I'm going to say something. I'm going to be really controversial. All right. This is the worst decision than O'Malley versus Jan.
Yeah.
Like, I scored it again. I scored last week's fight for Jan, 29-28. But I truly believe this, and everyone is saying it's a robbery. I don't believe it was robbery. I think you could have scored the first and third round for O'Malley. Or you could have scored all 3 rounds for Jan. Like, it wasn't. I don't see how you give Kirill Roundtree a round. He clearly loses the first 2 rounds, and he might have lost the third round. I actually gave Roundtree the third round, but it was one of those ones where, like Jacoby won. He probably won the third round too, but whatever. Like, I can't believe this. This is a robbery. Am I exaggerating right now, or
well? No, I think this is definitely worse.
Entertain the listeners, or what?
This is definitely worse to me than the O'Malley versus Jan decision. I thought round 1 was pretty obviously Jacoby. I gave Roundtree round 3. So it does hinge on round 2. And for the official scores, it hinged on round 2. But it's almost the inverse of what we were talking about in the Griffin versus Means fight. Because if there's any argument to be made for Roundtree, it's that he landed fewer strikes, but there was more power on them. But when we're talking about Means versus Griffin dropped Means.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't boxing. A knockdown isn't automatic 10-9, then 10-8, then 10-7 round. Yeah. But it means something. It's the most obvious indicator of damage. Damage trumps everything. The most obvious indicator of damage is that you punch someone in the head and they you rock their nervous system enough that they lost control of their body and they fell down. Like, you know, I
just don't get it. I didn't think the round was close. I thought it was clear, Jacoby. I actually thought when I went to the score, I thought it was maybe the first, because the first minute he was kind of coming out throwing hard shots. But I was shocked. I heard Roundtree tell someone to shut up. I guess that was the guy in the crowd. I was hoping it was someone from. I was hoping there was some drama. I was hoping it was like someone Jacoby or yeah. This is what I was shocked. Vegas had Dustin Jacoby heading into the third round as a negative 750 favorite, which means they had him winning both rounds easily.
Mm-hmm.
Which is shocked. I went to MMA decisions, and after all saying this, 2 guys scored it for Roundtree, so I guess it wasn't that bad. It was 14-2.
All right, let's talk about those 2 guys. One of them, co-worker of ours, a man I consider a good friend, Jay Petrie, but he is occasionally off his rocker.
For people who don't know, Jay is as knowledgeable of MMA of anybody on planet Earth. Like, don't be that person and go, Jay, don't watch MMA. Like, don't be that guy. Jay watches way more MMA than you do. Jay is a walking encyclopedia. He's up there with the all-time people when it comes to knowledge.
Yeah. And then the other one's Drake Riggs. And I love Drake, but
I love Drake.
Drake is known. Drake is the,
he's a little bit of a
yeah, he's the Tony Weeks or the Eric Cologne of
I love Drake, and Drake is extremely
Yeah.
knowledgeable. He's
Yes.
especially when it comes to like Asian MMA. He's like the go-to guy, women's MMA.
Yeah,
Like
he's
Drake
the
is
Jordan
a
Green of the 2020s.
yeah. Drake is a little he's a different character. We'll just say that he's a character. I've done some a bunch of shows with Drake in the past, and he's a good dude. But like I said, I love Drake. And Jay's like coworker, and I love Jay. Yeah, you guys are both wrong. Jacoby won that fight. I'm putting that. I'm nominated for robbery of the year and the Sherdog's robbery of the year. Before that, Phil Hawes versus Roman Delis-Hawes. Probably other than the main event, the fight I was looking forward to most, and I think it seemed like majority of people. I know you said it was one that you probably was most excited for. I'll say this. One, Roman Delis is a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, he looks it. He fights that way. He's from freaking Georgia.
Yeah.
The country, not the state.
Yeah,
even if you're from Georgia, the state, you're pretty badass too. But like,
not the Cody Durden, Georgia, like the Giga Chikadze, Georgia.
Yeah, like you're a badass. He's huge. How he makes middleweight is he looks like a heavyweight.
Yep.
He's huge. He's like he's a guy like he looks like a defensive end. He looks like I don't know, JJ Watt, or I don't know who's a defensive end. The other Watt, his brother. TJ Watt, yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's I want to see him. Like, I want to see what's that drill they do with, like, they hit the pad and they have to like stay low next to the cone. You know what I'm talking about? The defense end does. They hit the pad, but then they like crawl next to a cone and then turn the corner real fast. I want to see the Lindsay doing that drill.
Dude, like the shuttle drill. Yeah.
I
mean, dude, he just has that kind of like Eastern European, Central Asian stone face thing. I mean, you put him in a black turtleneck and he just looks like one of the guys from Die Hard, that's like standing behind.
You know what he looks like?
Hans Gruber.
He looks like the freaking mountain from Game of Thrones.
Which is ironic since Jared Van Der tried to call himself the Mountain just for being all big. But yeah.
But he not the remember they had like two the Mountains? Like there was one guy and then they changed the actor.
Yeah.
He was like the original guy.
Okay,
he's huge and he has a beard. But like, I just want to like, Delis-Hawes one day is just going to grab some guy's face and just crush it with his hands. Spoiler: if you haven't watched Game of Thrones yet.
Well, he watched Gore versus Friend and he's like, I should try that move.
That's like Delis-Hawes doing it. Like I'm pretty sure Delis-Hawes has killed somebody in his life.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me one bit. I mean, this was a weird fight. I picked Hawes in this one. And you know what? Delis-Hawes might be a better fighter. Maybe they fight 10 times, he wins 9 out of 10. But it only looks like this once. Having said that, I think Hawes is somewhat to blame here because he was way too casual in that leg lock situation. Like, he was like, I'm grabbing his leg, he's grabbing mine, we're fine. But yeah, he's going that way with your leg. Like, perpendicular from your body. Like, something's going to break.
Yeah. And like, it's Roman Delis-Hawes. Like he had to do that to a donkey once. Like when the family donkey had to get put down and like, oh, you have to break the legs first. Like he's done that. Like it's Roman Delis-Hawes.
They probably had to carry it to the glue factory on his shoulders.
I mean, who's scarier in the UFC than I'm keep going on. Like who's scarier than Roman Delis-Hawes? Like, he's a scary dude.
He is, and I mean, he's the third weight class from the top.
Like I'd have to shoot him and be like, I wouldn't be sure. Like, is this bullet gonna work? Like he's a scary dude.
He's got that Blagoy Ivanov thing where he's gonna get back up.
Yeah. All right. The guy from I don't know if you've seen the movie The Quick and the Dead, where like a bullet doesn't stop. I forgot the guy's name. The bullet doesn't stop me. So Delis-Hawes was always known for his wrestling. We've seen back-to-back fights where he's showing off power, a submission game. Vanis, he popped something in Hawes's knee and actually gave mercy to him. Like he didn't go over the kill. He's like, yeah, he's done. His knee's done.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember who the referee was. I think I don't remember who the referee was. Well, I don't think it was Herm Dean, but he was like, no, keep going. Go kill him. And he's like, okay.
It was Dan Mergliotta.
Oh, Dan Mergliotta, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's one of these. Delis is a guy that he looks like a problem in that division. I mean, he's wrestling. We got submissions now. We got power from him. He looks better and better every fight. And Hawes, well, one, he made Hawes look small, which I mean, look at Hawes.
No,
he's
I mean, Hawes isn't tall, but
yeah.
Again, especially with the bleached hair, he looks like Kevin Randleman.
Yeah, he looks. Yeah, that's true. He looks like he's related to William Knight. Like he's in that short but like huge. He looks small compared to. Like, you know what he looked like? It looked like the strongman guy standing next to the bodybuilder guy, or not the bodybuilder. Who's not bodybuilder? The who's the guys that like they're not big but they're all ripped up and they do like this flex. Like,
bodybuilders. Yeah,
okay,
like a power lifter versus a bodybuilder.
Yeah, I didn't mean like Gary Coleman. I mean like the 100.
Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman.
Gary Coleman's like
the short guy. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, not Arnold. Not Arnold. Yeah, he looked like the little guns, and the other guy like the Lindsay looks like the So
no, he wasn't Webster. He was on different strokes. Yeah.
All right, so Delitse, he's on a nice little run. I want to see him matched up against someone pretty good. Like, who are you matching on next?
Well, there's two options. If you believe in him, if you're like he was going to destroy Hawes anyway, he needs to step up. I give him Anthony Hernandez.
Ooh.
If you don't believe in him
That's our boy.
Yeah, it's our boy, and it's a good test because Hernandez is obviously a great grappler. He beat a hulking bully of a guy with his gas tank, and that's kind of my last question about the leads. Because the last time we saw him lose was in a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
Where Trevin Giles was pulling ahead at the end.
That really would be the Mountain versus the Viper.
Yeah. It would. Hernandez, like the most undersized guy. Yeah. If you don't believe in him yet, if you're like, you know what, that's nice, but he needs another guy of about that level. Andre Petrosky and Wellington Turman are fighting in a couple weeks. The winner of that would be good.
Man. Imagine the testosterone between him
and Petrosky.
Holy Christ.
You're going to want Dan Mergliotta reffing that one again, just to be able to physically pull them apart if he needs to. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I wrote down Brandon Allen as I want like a top 15 guy. Like he just looks like a top, and he seems so marketable too. Like how I'm talking about the guy. But yeah, honestly, I think we got too much testosterone for. I mean, like if you do Petrowski, like let's go WWE. Let's go like a full cage, like all the way up.
I think to answer Kyle here, what about Andre Muniz, the guy that subbed Jacare? I think Muniz is closer to the title picture than that by now.
Yeah, I'm having Muniz way, which is really unfair for the guys, but I'm having Muniz weigh in 2 weeks from now if I'm the UFC.
Yeah, I think Muniz might be one more win away from a title shot.
Yeah. Anyways, before that, Andre Arlovski took on Marco Sajero de Lima. Shout out to somebody who pointed this out. I wasn't going to say it, but Marco Sajero de Lima, the worst grappler in the UFC, just submitted former UFC champion.
I'm glad that you weren't on the preview because I got to go off all by myself about how bad his ground game is, and I still think defensively he might be the worst defensive grappler in the UFC still. Like all those things.
It was a club and sub. It was a club and sub,
but he at least did the right things. When he's put on his back, he still just lays there, both shoulder blades on the mat, doesn't move his hips, doesn't do anything except try to bench press the other guy off. And unless you're Derek Lewis or Mark Hunt, that's not an MMA ground game. But on top, against a rung up 44-year-old opponent, that black belt comes right out, Yeah. La Faixa Preta comes out and he's ready to
well, I'll say this. He might just be a top-sided grappler. Where he's good on top because he's so big, he can just rest that belly on top of Arlovski's back, and when he's on top, he's like that guy who that like woman who has like the tight jeans on and just undoes that like top button and just rolls over. Like that's Delima. Just put all that back. Hey, some guys are into that. Put that like back fat right on you.
Well, Kyle asked, does that mean Arlovsky officially has the worst ground game in the UFC? If you remember, the great Rickson Gracie once famously said, if you punch a black belt in the face, he becomes a brown belt. Punch him again, he becomes a purple belt. Basically, that's it. Arlovsky once was a great grappler. His heel hook of Tim Sylvia is literally his last sub. It was 16 years ago. Yeah. So he's a 44-year-old man that doesn't like to grapple anymore, and he got rung up bad. So whatever, belt he had was all the way down to white by the time Ogerio de Lima was on top of him. And I got to disagree with Boss here. I like you, Boss, but he does not look like the Michelin Man. The Michelin Man has little bumps. He looks like the Pillsbury Man. Or the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I just watched, me and my kids, we were watching Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters last night. That could be, if the guy thought of a Brazilian.
Well, he's like the slightly toasted, like you're getting ready to make s'mores. You got him on the little stick over the fire. Yeah.
There you go. I'll say this about Arlovsky's grappling. I feel the same way I do about Josh Taman. I just don't think it's there anymore. I don't think he physically can grapple anymore because of the gas tank, the age. He's a little undersized. He never was a huge heavyweight. And then I wonder about his grappling. Like 2008 is a lot different time than currently. It's like when people talk about BJ Penn, like, oh yeah, he was one of the Moondals. Like, yeah, 2002 or whatever. Like, he ain't tapping Gordon Ryan. You know what I mean? Oh. Like, it's a different time.
No, he ain't tapping Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall's tapping him.
Yeah, exactly. When he fought, like, credentialed wise, yeah, BJ Penn's credentials are just as good, if not better, than Ryan Hall's. Yep. But yeah, the fastball in 1910 isn't the same as now. Arlovsky needs to retire. That's all I'll say about that. He needs to retire. I've said that about every one of his fights, whether he wins or he loses. I want him to go on and win. He's never going to retire. When he finally gets cut from the UFC, he'll go to bare knuckle boxing or boxing on the undercard of a Jake Paul fight card. It's just what's going to happen. But I'll say about this about De Lima. He's big. He steamrolled him. He showed he got some power. I like that he kind of controlled the position before, looking for submission. Like, he kind of controlled the position, landed some shots. So I feel a little bit better about him moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mel,
I picked him to win. I picked every fight right.
Yeah. Mel asks, was Arlovsky previously a power guy? At his best, he was almost an everything guy. I mean, He was with all due respect to like Fedor and Big Nog and the other guys, Arlovsky may have been the most complete offensive fighter as a heavyweight in the world in like 2004, 2005.
He was the best athlete. He was a very good athlete.
He was a great athlete.
Good footwork.
Yeah.
Honestly, he kind of fought a lot like he fights now, but mind you, rewind 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just the level of competition. I mean, the guys he was beating, Aaron
Brink, Paul Bunatello.
Yeah, exactly. Like these guys, Paul Bunatello, like these guys would not make it to the UFC now.
No.
Or they would be the bottom of the barrel UFC heavyweight, not fighting for titles.
In hindsight, it's pretty impressive that he managed to finish Aaron Brink quickly, given what we learned about him later. That
yeah, you don't finish Aaron Brink. Nice.
Can take 12 hours to finish that man.
Even a guy like Tim Sylvia, who was like lumbering, he won because of his size and everything. Tim Sylvia would be a Josh Parisian type now.
Yeah. It's never. I mean, he did eventually get washed, but the main problem was even at his best, he had a suspect chin and had defensive lapses. So even when he was trading the UFC heavyweight title back and forth with Tim Sylvia, and the question was, how would Timmy and Randy and Andre do against Fedor and Big Nog? And, he was a guy that could lose to anyone on any given night.
Yeah, he almost had to fight perfect. And he could because he had the skills. I mean, everyone remembers him getting knocked out by Fedor, throwing that flying knee and getting caught. He was piecing Fedor up before that. He was looking the best we've seen him.
Very good.
Until Fedor knocked him out perfectly, and one of the best knockouts you'll ever see. I think about that knockout against Tim Sylvia, where he was knocked out with a really short, nothing shot. Like that was Arlovsky. He turned his. If we never see Arlovsky again, which I know we do, what I'll say about this is he's that guy that would always, every time we okay, it's all done. Put him away. He's put him out the pasture. He would find a way to reinvent himself. I'll give him credit for that. And to be the guy, like you mentioned it every time, be a guy who was in the UFC before Dana White was, to still be fighting at a high level and being competitive. I mean, this is his, every time
he was on a 4-fight win streak. He was on a 4-fight win streak coming into this fight. That's so bizarre. That's like that. Yes, it's a tribute to Arlovsky, how he has retooled his game to keep up with his body as it ages, but it's also a good argument for the UFC just closing its heavyweight division entirely. Just make it like women's featherweight. Just get somebody from somewhere. When your champ needs a fight, who cares?
I just hope we never see Andre Arlovsky like losing a boxing match to Jake Paul. Like I just hope that doesn't happen. Running back.
It'd have to be Logan Paul at least, because Logan's actually like a 200-some pound dude.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake's too small.
Like, don't lose a boxing match to like an NFL running back. I don't want to see him boxing LaDainian Tomlinson or something, or I don't know, Sean Alexander. Before that, Jung Young Park took on Joseph Holmes. I don't think there's much to say about this. This is one of the biggest favorites. I thought it was one of the easiest fights to pick. I feel like you have a mid-level UFC talent versus a extremely low-level UFC talent. Park Holmes tried fighting a distant kickboxing game until Jung Young Park was like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to do this against you," and he started crashing the pocket and got takedowns and beautiful mat return. I love the double, like jumping on both knees at the same time. It's you see that in wrestling when people try to jump to like a crab ride. It was kind of like a modified crab ride that people will do. It's cool when you see that, like a short Asian man doing it.
Yeah,
it was just great.
It's just something about Jun Young Park. I mean, he literally calls himself the Iron Turtle, and he looks like he's falling asleep when they announce his name in the octagon. It's not a Korean thing. I mean, we got some Korean fighters that are blinding. We got like Do Ho Choi and Kyung Ho Bang out there. No, it's him. He's just kind of small and dumpy. Yeah. He looks like he's slow, but once they hit the ground, at least, quick back takes. Slick in transition. And for a guy in Holmes that his only routes to victory were to keep this guy at a distance and jab him up, which wasn't going to happen, or catch a sub on the ground after getting taken down and getting taken down hard a couple times. Yeah, like Holmes didn't really have much of a chance here. And Park just continues to be a pleasant surprise in a division where you don't have to do that much to get into the title picture.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was really dumb of Holmes to throw kicks. Like he should have been throwing kicks. Like knew the guy want to take you down. That wasn't a good idea. Before that, Chase Hooper took on Steve Garcia, and like
I'm so angry.
Okay, I don't know who you. Oh no, I do. I listen to you. You picked Chase Hooper.
I picked Chase Hooper right after talking for like 7 minutes about how Steve Garcia was going to win this.
You know what I would have said if you told me the betting line? I would have said, like, Chase Hooper shouldn't be like, it was like a negative, like something like 330 favorite.
It's so stupid.
Like, what?
It was so stupid. Like, I said it on the preview. I'm like, Hooper was a completely one-dimensional grappler, unathletic, with no power when he came to the UFC. His striking is improving, but he's still super hittable. And as aggressive as Garcia is and how much power he has, there's every chance he just plunks Hooper in the first round. And then I was like, but he's dropping to 140 for the first time, and his own chin is kind of suspect, and he's going to get tired if it goes late. And what does he do? He comes out and he fucking plunks Hooper in the first round.
Yeah.
And I'm so dumb.
It looked like the, you know what it looked like? It looked like the opposite of everything you see in like movies where like the bully is picking on the kid and people are like, hey, fight back the bully. And then like the nerdy kid wins the fight. Like, no, that's not what happens in real life. Like real life, like the guy throws punches he saw it in a movie and he starts getting pieced up. And you're like, that's not what's supposed to happen. Like, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
A bunch of people washing around, laughing at the nerd, getting beat up at the junior high dance. He, to me, looked like he was taking – I mean, yeah, he got cracked, but we just started seeing some improvements from Hooper. But then I feel like he's done a 180 opposite. Like, he's tough as nails. He's no quit on him. He gets cracked. He keeps coming. but he lacks head movement. He lacks athleticism. He stands really tall. He's a weak wrestler. Like, he doesn't have a wrestling game. He's a good grappler, but like, he's not Gordon Ryan. Like, he can out grapple bad grapplers.
No, he's Mickey Gall.
He's Mickey Gall.
He is featherweight Mickey Gall.
Like a tenth of the athleticism and power.
And that's saying something, because Mickey Gall wasn't a great athlete either.
No.
But yeah, like, Hooper's even worse. And Mel, good call on this. His spinning attacks. Credit here to Connor Rebush from the Heavy Hands podcast. He used to do the Sherdog previews, in the era, probably 6-7 years ago. He and Patrick Wyman were a great pair for the previews, but he pointed out, only in MMA are you throwing like spinning attacks when you can't even work a jab.
That's good point.
Yeah. Like, of all the people that don't need to be trying that shit, Chase Hooper.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Dude, he got knocked down like 3 times in the first minute.
I couldn't, when I saw the line, I couldn't believe it. I said, if someone has to be like a 3-1 favorite, wouldn't it be Garcia? But I don't know. Not good. Another one that I thought the line was way off was Cody Durden versus Carlos Moda. Like, Carlos Moda closed on day's notice, closed as a favorite. You know me, I don't like to pick on the lines. I don't like to pick up people make the picks wrong, because shit, I make my picks out pretty much every week, and shit, I give you free reign to make fun of my picks because I get picks wrong all the time. I couldn't believe Cody Durden, and I know you didn't make the pick on this fight, but I couldn't believe Cody Durden was the underdog. I'm like, have people not seen Carlos Moda fight? Like, do some film study on this guy. This was a really bad stylistic matchup for him. He's a guy who always struggled with wrestlers. Cody Durden can wrestle.
Yep.
And he's taken on short notice. I thought Cody Durden should have been like 2-1 favorite. I'll say this about Durden. He's starting to show he's got some power in his hands. Like, I don't think he's a boxer, but like that's this in and out, fake the shot or try to land a big Chad Mendes overhand right type thing. It's 2 fights in a row where he's dropped guys with his hands, and
he's got sneaky power, and a lot of it just runs off of him, I think, being a pretty big, strong guy and pretty athletic for the weight class. He's just kind of got the same combination of things as someone like Matt Schnell does. Like, you can't point to one thing he does great, but he's kind of bigger and stronger than most of his opponents. Hopefully he does weight cuts better than Schnell. And yeah, just kind of big, pretty athletic, well-rounded. But this was the most obvious thing ever to me as well. Like, yeah, he'd probably beat full camp Moda, but he was definitely going to beat this Moda.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say it was a good night. He didn't say anything racist afterwards, right? We didn't, as far as I know.
I don't think so. He's trained by Brazilians, so he can't like say too much shit about Brazilians. Okay, so I guess we just need to keep him away from the Chinese guys.
Okay, so he didn't say anything racist. So overall, good night for Cody Durden.
Oh yeah.
Before that, Christian Rodriguez versus Joshua Wims. The only thing worse than Moda's UFC debut was Joshua Wims. Joshua Wims isn't good. Like, that was one of the easiest. I mean, he got taken down and then got swept and anaconda choked in like a anaconda choke that made like Trayshawn Gore's guillotine look like it was in like high speed. Like, it was. How does that happen? Like, I don't know. Not how does Christian Rodriguez submit him? I'm not saying that. Like, no. I think he eventually could, but like that one.
No, like, yeah, it looked like one of those like Nature Channel videos of a python swallowing a goat, and it takes like 20 minutes, so they have to put like a time lapse on it. That's how slow this submission was. Yeah, bad look for Weems. Short notice, overweight, so it's kind of
give him a little pass to that.
Give him a little pass on that, but with Rodriguez, I'm like, okay, what can we pick at here? Well,
nothing.
I will pick at one thing.
Oh, negative. I'll say something negative.
Yeah, one negative. Like, I didn't like the guard pull. It worked here, but pulling guard against any of the top 20 bantamweights in the UFC is going to get you pulverized.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's going to ever be a contender until he fixes that takedown defense. He was taken down a bunch by a guy who's not good.
Yeah.
So, and Weems, I mean, the guy's been stopped in the first round in both the Contender Series and the UFC debut. Not a good intro to UFC fans. There you have it, guys. We have covered all 11 fights. Ben, do we have the awards? And if we do or do not, we'll take. How about this? While Ben's looking,
we got him.
Well, we do have him.
We got him. All right, so let's do this because a lot of you in the chat have probably already seen it. So instead of guessing what they are, why don't you say what you think they should be? What we actually got were 4 performance of the nights and no fight of the night.
Really? Wow. Okay. I'm surprised by that because I thought Jacoby and Roundtree was a no-brainer for poor fucking Dustin Jacoby. Like Dustin,
he should have $100,000 more in his pocket right now.
Oh my god! Like he loses the decision, then doesn't even get the bonus. Man, that's like the one thing I say. Well, at least he gets a bonus. Okay, so Ben, you can read out the listeners' ones while I think of what I would do.
Absolutely.
I would do. Let me look at the fights real quick. I would do.
If you're in the chat right now, put in whom would give your awards to, and if you disagree, if you think there should have been a fight of the night, then put that in there. We'll read some of these off.
I'm going to Lidsley for one of them. I want to give Arnold one, but he's not going to get one because how it ended. I'm going to go Delima. You beat Andre Arlovski. You got a submission on Andre Arlovski. That's still something even now. Honestly, the way, even though I don't think he was that impressive, the way Gore finished him, I would give him one. Oh, and Steven Garcia, like you're an underdog, even though I don't think you should have been an underdog, and you put it on a guy the way you get like a flawless victory in like Mortal Kombat or something. Those are the 4 I'm going with. But I would have only done 2, and I would have gave Roundtree and Jacoby something.
Okay, so you're a bit like Boz there. Kyle Lawheed wants to give them 2. Steve Garcia, Roman Dolidze, Tresean Gore, and Marcos Agerio de Lima.
Yeah, that's the same for
Mel likes Dolidze.
Nice job, Kyle. Kyle always gets everything right. Nice job.
Yeah. Technical Wealth, Fight of the Night, Roundtree and Jacoby. Our buddy Scott, Garcia, Dolidze, and Gore. Scott's like, nobody gets the 4th award. Scott's keeping that one for himself.
That's it.
Man, I don't want Scott to be my boss. Man. Your actual winners. Tresean Gore, Roman Dolidze, Steve Garcia, and Christian Rodriguez.
Oh, wow.
I do like that the first 2 fights out of the gate got so that's 3 of the 4. Or is that all 4 went to prelim fighters?
Hold on. Same again. No, Gore wasn't a prelim.
Yeah, okay. So 3, because Dolidze, Garcia, and Rodriguez all got.
I'm surprised. Rodriguez was a huge favorite. And he was going against a guy taking the fight on short notice. Over my boy, you know what? They don't. People hate. You know what happens? People fat shaming still. They don't want to give fat people any love. That's what happened to.
Like, look at him. He's not hurting for money. That's how they look at.
Yeah.
Tiffany Shriver always. She's always popping in the comment sections of the previews. Sometimes makes it out for the recaps. It's always lovely to see you here when you do.
Yeah, we definitely like her. She's great.
They don't want to give real life cartoon characters any love. You know what he looks like? He looks like Baymax, that big puffy white robot that said "I am not fast" on what was that?
Yeah, I don't know
that kid's show, that kid's cartoon movie. I don't remember the name of it.
I've seen a lot of them. I haven't seen that one. All right, let's keep it negative. Let's get to the cut list. If you guys are not familiar with the cut list, the way we do the cut list, we and Ben both go through the fighters on the card. If we think someone should no longer have a contract with the UFC, we give the UFC permission to cut them. The catch is they have to be on both Ben and mine's list, and I actually might surprise you. I don't have that many on my list.
You might have more than me.
I have 1.
I only have 1.
Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, both me and Ben are giving the UFC permission to cut Jared Vanderaa.
It is Jared Vanderaa. Yeah. I thought about Chase Hooper. Just, it's not that he's lost 5 fights in a row. I mean, he's 3-3 in the UFC now. But he's alternated wins and losses the whole time. He just doesn't seem to have improved. I think it would be the best thing for him if he went to LFA and just fought 4 times a year for 2 years and came back. He'd still only be 25. But you're alternating wins and losses. That's the Randa Marcos line. If you can make the Randa Marcos line, you don't get cut. So
that's how I feel. Like he's only on a 1-fight losing streak. That's how I look down and it's like he's on a 1-fight losing streak. Chris, we're going to answer your question a little bit. I just want to put it up there as a teaser. All right, so we only had one. I'm surprised. Let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. Let's do. Want to do the keep it negative? Want to do the Bears?
sure, let's do the Bears.
So the Bulls and Bears is a stock market reference. When people had a good night, it's a bull stock. When it's a bad night or a bad market, it's a bear. You want to be on the Bulls. You don't want to be Bears. We do it hockey style, 3-2-1. 1 being the number one. So this is negative. You don't want to be on this list. You mind if I go first?
Go for it.
I want to stay with Chase Hooper. He's lost 3 out of 5. This was an all-time bad performance for him. Yes, he's extremely young. He should be making improvements, and he's not. And I'm worried about the damage he's taking. Yeah, he's learning on the job. I'm worried about the confidence. I'm worried about there's a lot. Yeah, there's physical tools that can improve, but the mental side of this, to remember a guy like Steve Garcia hit you with the 3-piece and the soda, and not good. My number 2, Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes has kind of been viewed as a waste of a talent. Had a nice little run, and it's kind of going back to he's lost 2 out of 3. He's been knocked out in those 2 fights. He's been knocked out a lot in a guy's career already. I don't think Phil Hawes is ever going to live up to that potential. And my number 1, this is a shame, but my number 1 is Calvin Kattar. He's lost 2 fights in a row. He blew out his knee or his Achilles or his ankle or whatever it was. Not looking good. He's probably going to be out for a long time. He's lost 3 out of 4. We were kind of writing his death sentence out there saying he probably would never be a top featherweight again. So Calvin Kattar's stock is hitting all. And that's my guy. But yeah. Well, who do you got?
Okay, I agree with all yours. So rather than come up with 3 of my own, I'll just add 2 more in. 1, Andrei Arlovsky. It's regardless of how he's doing it, the baling wire and duct tape and chewing gum, the smoke and mirrors. He was on a 4-fight win streak. The smoke and mirrors are gone. We got our periodic once every 18 months reminder of what it looks like when he takes on an actual heavyweight that can throw a punch and has a little bit of athletic upside, and it wasn't pretty. So just a reminder, and like you, win or lose, he's on my retired list every fight. Like, I can't imagine the UFC will cut him again. But yeah, so add him and add in Josh Fremd, because I don't look at Fremd as like, I don't know if he's even a future top 15 guy, but I thought of him as a guy that would have some staying power. And conversely, I'm already thinking of Tresean Gore coming into this fight as a bit of a busted prospect, a guy like Hooper that probably just needs to go back, get 5 or 6 fights in short order on the regionals and come back. But Fremd got wrecked, and the only positive out of it is that he went from being arguably the tallest middleweight in the division to being absolutely the tallest middleweight in the division, because Tresean Gore just made his vertebrae about 2 inches apart. So he is 6'6" now, which is nice. He's
on that Sean. He can be looking like Sean Woodson from now on. All right, let's go to the Bulls. These are the lists that you want to be on. I'll let Ben kick it off first.
Okay. Bulls. I'll give credit where credit is due. Cody Durden, because I gave him plenty of hell in his last fight. And from there, regardless of the actual substance of what he said, if you're getting attention for the wrong reasons, there's really only one way out of it. Stop saying dumb shit and win your next fight. Like, Tony Kelly couldn't hack that. Cody Durden did.
You can still say dumb shit. Just write the certain dumb shit.
Well, okay, certain flavors of dumb. I like when fighters say dumb shit. But yeah, like Durden just put on a fantastic performance and just puts the rest of that in the rear view, and it'll probably be a forgotten thing a year from now. Man, Max Griffin might have been the best performance of his UFC run yet, because while it depended on individual bursts of offense and him hurting means, it was a protracted thing. It wasn't just a flash knockout, because he could be on a 10-fight losing streak in the UFC and could still plunk someone on any given night. But to plunk someone repeatedly who is as tough as Tim Means and arguably win all 3 rounds, that's That's a turn the corner performance. He showed endurance, he showed persistence, he showed confidence. Those are the things that Max Griffin at his worst seems to lack. So all good things for him. And number 1, ATT. I already mentioned Cody Durden, but ATT in Florida and its Atlanta counterpart. I mean, there was the one ATT versus ATT fight in Rogerio de Lima versus Arlovsky, but even there, the younger guy that's going to be in the gym for longer won, and won uncontroversially, so that's good. And then, Cody Durden won, Trayshawn Gore won. Good night for the granddaddy of mega gyms. You are muted, sir.
Sorry about that. I'm almost up. I was going to mention the Georgia connection, but you already mentioned in the chat. I was going to try to be clever, going Georgia State and Georgia the country, but I'll go Arnold Allen. I mean, say what you want. 10 wins in a row in the UFC is a hell of a streak. I don't know where that ranks all time, but it's probably up there. To start his UFC career 10-0, that's super impressive. The fact that we're talking about him possibly fighting for a title next, winning his main event, going almost into hostile territory. I mean, it's always going, being non-American, fighting America in America. But Calvin Kattar, traveled well. There was a shitload of people cheering for Calvin Kattar. Yeah. So a really good win for Arnold Allen. My number 2, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I'll say this, you get a win over Andre Arlovsky, regardless where you do the rest of your career, you got to win over a former UFC champion. You get to keep that on your resume forever. You can always say, I beat that champion. I don't follow boxing, but I'm sure George Foreman lost to some guy I've never heard of. And he's the rest of his life, he's known as the guy. He's got a speaking event at a gym, and he's like, he number 8 in the world. He beat George Foreman in 1969 or something, that's De Lima forever. Where was I? That was number 2. My number 1, Roman Delis-Hawes. I mean, 3 fights in a row. He looks like a contender. He looks like a madman. He's very remarkable to me. I'll go with Mr. Roman Delis-Hawes as my top winner of the night. So you guys have it. That's the Bulls and the Bears. Ben, do you have any dude seriouslys?
I've got a ton of them. I mean, I'll just throw out real quick. I already mentioned it in passing, but Chase Hooper, your striking is defined on the feet by enormous vulnerability because you don't keep your hands up, you move straight back, you don't move your head, and you can't throw a jab. So you're going to start throwing spinning back fists at a man who knocked you down 3 times in the first minute. Dude, seriously?
I don't blame him. Fuck it. Maybe he punches you in the back of the head, you win by disqualification while you're spinning.
Josh Fremd, I have not been in your training camp before. I've not been in your gym when you were in there. But you have been in MMA long enough that I am certain that you have defended the guillotine choke before. Dude, seriously, you try to climb the fence on all fours like a monkey trying to escape from the monkey house at the zoo while a dude is holding your neck. A dude who, by the way, his arm is the size of my fucking leg. It looked like Jason Bourne killing somebody, and he 100% did it to himself. At least just sit down and get guillotined.
Was it like a WWE match where if you grab the fence, they have to let go of the submission? Kind of like you grab the rope, they have to let go.
Those are all I got.
I got a bunch. First of all, I got to go with Bellator. Bellator. First of all, what are you doing? What are you doing having a card on a Saturday? If you have any crossover with the UFC, you don't do that. You automatically 90% of your watchers just went away. Dude, seriously, stay on Fridays.
In Italy, a miserable card, tape delayed. It's that. I mean, that's just the. It was taped. Bellator. It's the Bellator Grand Slam right there. Oh, an Italy card with a bunch of bad SBG Ireland Italian fighters on it, tape delayed. That's just the trifecta of just the worst Bellator does.
Yeah. Next one, Brandon Fitzgerald. Andre Arlovsky's going on a diet. Guy's 43 years old, trying to live longer, and you're going to diss his diet? Dude, seriously? I don't know if you caught that. He's giving up meat's not that hard. Come on, dude. Seriously?
Come on.
How about that? How about Michael? Speaking of comedy, I want to go to Michael Bisping. Trayshawn Gall wins like the biggest fight of his career. He's all happy. He goes, so he came off the Contender Series and been a complete disappointment. Like, dude, seriously, you say that to the guy? Like, all right.
Bisping is constitutionally unable to say nice things to UFC middleweights even now. Like he's just like kind of sizing them up. Like he ain't that. He ain't all that.
And he's got to throw that on to like a Ultimate Fighter winner too. Like throw that out there too. Max Griffin.
One more thing on Bellator. Dev showed me, like, he sent me a picture of the fight poster for an upcoming Bellator card, and it literally just said Saturday on it, like it was for like a school play.
Yeah, like a yard sale.
From a church newsletter.
Like you got like a sign on a pole for like a yard sale.
Yeah, yeah. Like it literally didn't have the date on it. Like,
fantastic. It wouldn't be better if it was just like coming soon.
Yeah, and I mean that card was a yard sale, so yeah.
I want them to be good too. I really do. Like nobody cheers harder for Bellator than I do. Just why do they? Every decision they make is wrong. All right, so Max Griffin was trying to be all serious. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass, but if you're trying to raise money and you're trying to like pump up your coach and like encourage him and like, hey, we're going to get money for ALS, don't go. ALS is a death sentence. Like, dude, seriously? Like, imagine you're his coach, like you're super excited because Max Griffin just won, your boy just won, you're all excited, and you're like, and then he reminds you that like you're gonna die. Like, dude, seriously? What the fuck?
Yeah. That's brutal.
All right.
Oh man.
All right. Who was it? Was it Vandera? No, who was? Okay, I don't remember. I actually think it might have been. Oh yeah, it was Max Griffin. I think it was Max Griffin. Max Griffin says he broke his hand. I think it was him. He's like, yeah, I think I broke his hand. And instantly, Michael Bisping shakes that hand. Like, dude, seriously? He just said he broke his hand. And my last one, not to harp on Calvin Kattar, but dude, you're from Boston. The House of a Rising Sun is a fantastic song, but you can only use that entrance song if you're from New Orleans. It starts off, there's a house in New Orleans. Like, if you're from New Orleans, you're Dustin Poirier, you're DC. Yeah, come out with that song. You're from Boston. We have some of the greatest songs ever, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, seriously?
Like, it's kind of like Forrest Griffin used to walk out to Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys when he was from like Athens, Georgia. Like, dude, just like have some loyalty. Be like Derek Lewis. Come out to like Houston hip hop deep cuts. That's what you got to do.
There you go. So there's our do seriously. All right, we had a couple other ones from. We had some dude seriously from. Higher Low goes after Tyone for basically getting Friend. Like Friend was out for a while.
Yeah, and like woke up in pain. Like as soon as he woke up, he was like, "Oh, my head!" Like, yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, Bass kind of jumped on this similar point. All right, grade of the card. What would you give the grade?
C. And that's a generous C. There were multiple fights with bad decisions or stupid injuries. It just was one of the lowest stakes UFC Fight Night cards of the year. Like I'm being nice and giving it a C. Yeah.
So there was a lot of stoppages. I don't hate robberies. Like that makes the card a little more memorable. Like I don't deduct points for that. I almost add points for it because it actually makes it more memorable. But anytime the main event ends the way it was, and like this card always was going to have a ceiling, so I'm going C-. Like it was okay. It's going to be a very forgettable card. Kyle Law, he says D for D's nuts. Bass being the high score, going B-, C+. Scott McCready goes C-, technical D+. So Bass is the lone by himself. He's the Drake Riggs of the scorecards for the grades. Listener of the card. Who's your listener of the card?
Man,
listen to the show, I should
I'm
say.
pretty sure that Mel just came out of nowhere, and
Oh.
this isn't even just like rookie of the year type thing. Where I mean, sometimes if somebody is new, we'll give them a little love. Like this is like LeBron rookie of the year, where okay, you're the rookie of the year, but you might be the best player in the league right now, type thing. Yeah,
like Patrick Mahomes when he first became a
yeah,
starter.
yeah, like that kind of thing. Oh, don't get me started on Mahomes. The one time I draft a quarterback relatively early in the Sherdog League, and I'm just dying this year.
Oh, I'm having my worst season. Actually, your Sherdog's the only league I'm doing okay. Every other league I'm in, I'm like the worst. I drafted every bust there is. Everybody got injured. Yeah. Javonte Williams had to ship a load of leagues. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? One of those.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Keith and I have come in first and second in the Sherdog staff fantasy football league the last 2 years in a row. And
yeah, so I don't feel. Yeah, I'm not feeling bad for you. Like, fuck off. No, let's be honest. It didn't come in. Keith and Ben came in first and second. No, you mean Keith came in second 2 years in a row. So, which means Ben obviously beat me first 2 years in a row. All right, so yeah, I think Mel killed it. So yeah, all the rest of the usuals killed it. I'm gonna throw it out to Tiffany. Tiffany, she came in, she dropped like 2 lines. I want to get to Tiffany. She says she doesn't like to talk too much in the chat. I'm gonna get to Tiffany just because it's cool for her to let herself know. Tiffany, though, this is my invitation. Come in the chat, chat it up. Come on, girl. You're I believe in you. You're like the Puff Daddy in the background, like saying a couple things. No, like come on in, lead the song. Like you might be doing like what's that song about BAJ dying? Like you could be leading the charts. Come on, Tiffany, get out there. Most important question of the night, Ben, because I know you're super into it and you've done super in-depth research. You've been checking the tape study. You've been going deep. Who wins? Anderson Silva, the greatest middleweight of all time. Anderson Silva. What does he have? 10 UFC title defenses, success in 2 different weight classes. The Spider, future UFC Hall of Famer, or internet star Jake Paul. I don't know how Jake's. I'm not trying to be like I'm a little bit of a boomer on this. I don't know how he's famous. Like I don't know what he did. I know he was like I didn't know Jake Paul until he was fighting Ben Askren. Like I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, I mean, he and his brother Logan had a super successful YouTube channel where they did videos mostly for kind of.
I don't know what they did. What they do.
Yeah, not kids, but kind of like younger teen type things. But I'll say this: he's turned into a solid club level boxer, which is more than he had to do. I always respect people that. I mean, he didn't have to become a good boxer. He could have collected checks just for beating up nobodies, but he's actually clearly wants to be a good boxer. I think this is the end of the fun. I think he loses to Silva. If Silva feels like fighting, I think he's going to get schooled.
Everyone that 35 years old?
Yeah. But everyone that Jake Paul has beaten up until now is 2 of 3 things. Much older than Jake, much smaller than Jake, or barely trained. They've all been at least 2 of those things. Yeah. Some of them have been all 3. Silva's only 1. He's older, but he's not going to be smaller. And he's a better boxer even now. He's beating real boxers now.
He's 45 though.
Yeah. Dude, when he was 44, he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who's a much, much better boxer than
but when Tom Brady was 44, he should have won league MVP.
That's true. Tom Brady did
fall off a cliff. Silva going through a divorce? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, if he's not going to divorce, I will take Anderson Silva. I don't know. I didn't really follow it. I'll watch it real quick, but I'll say this about Jake Paul. I've seen a lot of interviews with him here and there, in the MMA world, and I kind of like the guy.
Sure.
He's talking about fighter pay and he's really likable. I don't know why people hate the guy. And he's fighting guys. He's fighting washed up guys, but he's fighting, like you said, he's fighting guys. He's fighting old guys. I love when mid-level UFC fighters call him out. When Sam Alvey was calling him out. It's like, dude, he's not going to fight you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like the guy.
I like him just fine. He came from I have no feelings about his YouTube thing because I wasn't really there for it. It's not what I consume. But his public persona now, he wears weird, bougie, expensive clothes, and he's really loud and outrageous. But he's generally saying things that I agree with. Go get your loot, man. I don't care.
Yeah. So you're taking Anderson Silva by what? How many rounds is it?
Knockout late. It's 8 rounds. That's
8?
another thing.
So that you think that helps the old man?
I think that helps the old man because Silva's really good at winning rounds without burning his gas tank. Paul is jacked, and his last couple of wins, he's really kind of crashed the pocket, done a lot of clinching, thrown things hard. I think this looks like a lesser version of Floyd versus Conor, or Floyd versus the 2 Japanese guys that he's fought over the last 2 or 3 years, where it's an outclassing moment, and it only gets as ugly as the less experienced guy wants it to be.
And that's why he's the best analyst out there, because he's doing the research. I'll take Anderson Silva because I like Anderson Silva. And I haven't studied this at all. I don't really follow boxing. Ben, more important, what will be the bigger blowout? Will be Anderson Silva beating Jake Paul, or will it be my Patriots beating JT Snow's Jets? I see that stupid comment, JT Snow.
Oh, Jets and the Patriots. I'm a little busy this week. got some stuff going on.
Hey! Anytime you beat the Yankees, you're good in my book, brother.
Hey, man! Everybody's favorite team is whoever's playing the Yankees this week. So that's everyone's second favorite team. Yep.
So there you guys have it. Go watch Anderson Silva beat up Jake Paul, or maybe Jake Paul beats up Anderson Silva. He's Ben. I'm Keith. We'll be back next week recapping. I don't even know what we got. What is it?
UFC week? Vegas.
Who's the main event?
It's Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Lemos.
Oh yeah,
it's UFC Vegas 64. It lost its main event.
Yes.
Yeah, but it still got Neil Magny versus Daniel Rodriguez.
It's solid. It's actually a solid card. So that's what we'll be doing.
Dude, it's got Jailton Almeida going to make guacamole out of Maxime Grishin. Not that I'm tipping my pick yet, but
yeah,
he's going to
there goes all our views. There goes all our views now.
All our views.
All right, see you guys.
All right, peace.